Good morning and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Wednesday, August the 18th, I believe it is. I hope we have good weather today. Yesterday was lovely. It was nice and chilly. Well, not chilly, but certainly wasn't 36 degrees, and I am really appreciating this. I like the weather that's more like September, so the end of August is one of my favorite times of year. Today I'd like to continue with sort of talking about how does the church need to change, working on those questions from the questionnaire I've asked my congregation to fill out. I'd like you to remember back to Monday's question about what did you need and what did you receive from the church 5 years ago. And my question is this: thinking back on that answer to your question about 5 years ago and considering all that has changed over the past 18 months, what would you like the role of the church to be in your life now and in the times to come? So when I say church, it could be sort of small C church, like your little church parish, like St. Mary's or St. Thomas. It could be the Anglican Church in the Diocese of Edmonton or in the country. It could be the Christian church around the world. However you think about church, or even on all those different levels. I think it's important to think about what we need church to be, or what we hope church could be, the role of church in our lives, what church has to offer. Because when we start answering those questions, then comes the next step, which would of course be, what do we have to offer to the church or through the church? If we are hoping that the church would offer, for instance, Bible studies or more opportunities for us to learn about our faith, that would then require us to participate, to reach out to others and say, yes, I will take that course. For instance, in St. Thomas on Wednesdays beginning September 15th through December 15th, on every Wednesday from 10 until 11 a.m., we will be having, 10 to 11 a.m., we will be studying some Indigenous matters. Like we'll be watching a video that talks about residential schools and the doctrine of discovery and all of the Indian Act and the things that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission asked us years ago as a church to begin to do, to learn about and to discuss and really begin to process the truth of what happened in our country, as opposed to what we have been either told happened or not told about at all. And we've been kind of lax with that. We haven't done that work nearly as much as we should have. So we will be offering that conversation using some really good video resources that the Anglican Church of Canada has produced, as well as any other things we have, and books or articles, other resources and conversations that might come up. One of the things I love about being a priest and leading studies like that is when people challenge me to find out something new. I like having to do the research and going and asking questions and figuring out, okay, so how do we answer that question, or how do we delve into that topic? So we're going to be doing that. Dude just leaned into the chair or the table that the computer's on. In St. Mary's, if people would like to do that, or if there's a different time of day that people would like to participate, we'll be doing that as well. We're just going to find out what's most convenient for everybody involved. So if you're interested and you're in the area, please let me know, because this is open to anybody, not just our congregations. But in discovering who we need the church to be, what we want the church to become today, based on how things have changed, how our own thoughts have changed, our own need of church and the things we don't need from church, that requires community. It requires us to be willing to participate, to volunteer, to come out, to join, to share. Maybe some of it will be online. Maybe that's a need, that we have a greater online presence. And if it is, then we'll be asking you to pray, because this is as savvy as I get, without having my husband's expertise, and that takes a lot of time from him. But I'm sure that whatever it is that God is calling us to do as a community, as a church, then God will also help us find the resources and the know-how and the expertise and everything to do that as well. So I'm not too worried about that, just a little, and I'm anticipating what might come next. I wonder too, will prayer be something that people are expecting of the church? I've found over the last probably 9 or 10 years of my ministry that prayer has been becoming something central in my life. That if you had asked the people at St. James, what was I known for? What did you know you were going to get? I hope they would say a solid sermon, but I know that they would also say prayer. We prayed a lot. I prayed a lot. We encouraged people to pray a lot, talked about it quite a bit. And I'm hoping that that's something that we recognize that was needed in the church today. Prayer is more than simply the prayers of the people or the prayer over the gifts or the collect of the day. Prayer is that moment when you just, like last Sunday at St. Mary's, when we were talking about the drought and the forest fires, and one of the gentlemen in the congregation said, you need to pray for rain. And so I did. I just stopped and we said a prayer for rain. And sometimes I wonder, are people surprised by that in an Anglican church if we just stop and have extemporaneous prayer? It shouldn't be a surprise, I think. However, saying that, it took me a lot of years to be able to pray like that off the top of my head. And it is not simply, but Jesus prayer or a Jesus just prayer. They are prayers that come from the heart, prayers that hopefully collect the thoughts and concerns and the praises of the group who are gathered. Help us to focus what we're doing and invite God to be with us in what we are doing. So my hope is that people will respond that prayer is something that they need of the church. That they've noticed that in the past 18 months they've really needed the church to have take a role in that. I honestly have no idea what people will answer, and I'm kind of excited. This is an opportunity. It's scary because, there's the liturgy is going to stay. When I say what will the role of the church be, what needs to change, church isn't going to change. The church service will stay. Obviously, that's what we do on Sundays. We gather, we worship. But does worship need to happen at other times as well? Do we need to have a prayer group? Do we need to have Bible or book studies or both? Do we need to have an outreach committee where we are looking at the people around us in our communities in Edgerton and Wainwright and saying, okay, how can we be the boots on the ground? How can we be the hands and feet of Jesus in the world? Do we need to pick up the Halifax Jesus rocks and start leaving traces of Jesus' love everywhere we go? Do we need to borrow their idea of God's tickle trunk and have a little opportunity for people to borrow books or to take, canned goods or practical things that they might need or that they could leave for other people in the community as a little community resource? Who knows? Those are things I know of. But I am looking forward to seeing the encouragement and the ingenuity and the creativity of members of my congregation when they answer that question. So if you're answering the questions along with us, the question to talk about today was thinking back to your answer for question number 1 about the 5 years ago, what did you need of the church? And considering all that has changed over the past 18 months with the pandemic and physical separation or, restrictions and isolation, what would you like the role of the church to be in your life now and in the times to come? Please give it some thought, because my hunch is that what you're thinking, others might be thinking too. And if others are thinking it, then maybe that's what God needs us to do. Have a great day. I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael when we'll finish up talking about how the church must change. God bless everybody.